Okay, so today we're going to review how to solve multi-step equations. This is something that you should have learned how to do in 7th grade, but you may not remember some of these key steps. So when when we're solving multi-step equations, we want to make sure that we're simplifying the expression that's on each side of the equation first, fully before we start to solve. And when you simplify expressions, you always want to distribute and then combine like terms in that order. You can think about distributing as multiplication, and you can think about combining like terms as addition or subtraction. So for example, distributing is when you have a number that's being multiplied by an entire expression. When this happens, you want to make sure that you multiply that number by everything inside of the parentheses or by every term in that expression. So in this case, I'm distributing -2. I always like to draw these arrows to show what I'm multiplying that number by. And I'm multiplying it by 3x and -1. So -2 times 3x is -6x. And -2 times -1 is +2. Notice how the sign changed, right? Because I'm multiplying by a negative, the signs of these numbers or these terms changed. Now, these two terms are not like terms because one of them has an x and one of them doesn't. So that would be as far as I could go in simplifying that expression. This is an example of where we would combine like terms. As you can see, there's no parentheses here, so we're not multiplying. We are just adding or subtracting. But we can only add or subtract like terms, terms that have the same variable. So that would be the 7x and the -1x. When I'm combining like terms, I like to write the terms next to each other using the associative property. So I have 7x minus 1x plus 11. And 7x minus 1x is 6x. And then I cannot combine 6x with positive 11 because they're not like terms. So that would be as far as I could go in simplifying that expression. Here's an example where you have to do both. You have to distribute and you have to combine like terms. Remember, when you have to do both, you want to make sure that you're distributing first and combining like terms afterwards. That's the order of operations. We multiply before we add. So I'm going to start by distributing the 4 to the 8x and to the -8. Both things inside parentheses. 4 times 8x is 32x, and 4 times -8 is -32. Then I'm going to drop down the plus 11. Now that I've distributed and the parentheses are gone, I can combine like terms. So my like terms here are the -32 and the positive 11, because neither of those numbers have x. They're just regular numbers. They're constants, and they can be combined. So -32 plus 11 is like doing 32 minus 11, which would be 21, and there's more negatives. So this becomes -21. -32 plus 11 is -21. I would drop down 32x, and this is as far as I could go in simplifying that expression because these are not like terms. Okay, so let's put that together with solving an equation. Okay, so as we said originally, when we solve an equation, you want to start by making sure both sides are as simplified as possible. Okay, so I'm going to always draw these lines around my equation down the page because it helps me split my equation into both sides and remember that what I do to one side, I have to do it to the other side to keep it balanced. Okay. Right now, the left side of the equation is not fully simplified. The right side is. I can't do anything else to 12, but I could simplify this expression more than it already is. Okay, so I'm going to start with distributing. I see that there's parentheses in my equation. I know that that means I have to multiply the number that's touching those parentheses. And I know that I want to distribute before I combine any like terms. So my first step is to distribute to eliminate the parentheses. And this is tricky. A lot of people mess this up. I am distributing a -4, okay? When you have subtraction before that number that you're distributing, circle that subtraction sign with the number to show that it's as if you're distributing a negative number. I see that mistake all of the time. So I'm distributing -4. So -4 times +1x is -4x. And -4 times +3 is -12. Okay, and now my parentheses are gone, and I can drop down the other numbers that I haven't used yet, which is this 4 that's floating in front, and this 12 that's on the other side. Now, I haven't actually done anything to this side besides simplified it, right? So there's nothing I have to do to this side. I'm just trying to make this as simplified as possible before I start to solve. So there's one more thing I can do on this side before I start to solve, and that's combine like terms. The 4 is a like term with -12 because neither of those numbers have an x. So I can combine those. So I'm going to second combine like terms. And 4 minus 12 can be written next to each other. And 4 minus 12 equals -8. I'm just dropping down those other terms that I haven't used consistently. Okay, now when I ask myself, are both sides fully simplified? The answer is yes, because I can't combine these two things. They're not like terms, so there's nothing else I can do to simplify. So here is where I can start to solve. To solve a two-step equation, we always start by eliminating the constant, right? Our goal is to get x by itself. That's how you solve an equation. And before you get x by itself, you have to get the entire term with x by itself. And to do that, you eliminate the constant, the other number first. So step 3 is going to be add or subtract to eliminate the constant. So looking at this, the 8 is negative. So to eliminate it, I need to add 8 because -8 plus 8 makes 0. And now since I added 8 to this side of the equation, I have to do that to the other side of the equation to keep it balanced. And this is 20. 12 plus 8 is 20. Equals, I'm going to drop down what I have left. which is not just 4x, it's negative 4x, right? I need to make sure I'm carrying that all the way down with me, this negative 4x. All right, now that I've isolated the term with x, I can officially get x by itself by getting rid of this coefficient, the negative 4. The negative 4 is being multiplied by x. This says negative 4 times x equals 20. So what times negative 4 equals 20? To figure that out, we always divide by the coefficient. Divide to eliminate the coefficient. So I'm going to divide negative 4x by negative 4, the exact same number that I see, because when I divide a number by itself, that equals 1. And that's what we want. We want 1x, or just x, to be left over. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. So I have to divide this side by negative 4 as well. And that gives me my solution, negative 5.